8th of March 2025 was International Women's Day, if you didn't already know. This photo was from a while back, showing how many women there are in the Australian government. My only question is, why are these two here, the PM and the Deputy PM? Well, obviously the answer is for a photo op. Politicians love being in the spotlight. Of course, what better way to celebrate women by announcing the Woman of the Year awards? The woman on screen, for example, Dylan Mulvaney, was named Woman of the Year in the UK in 2023. Well, woman, I mean transgender woman, but apparently that counts. Her partnership with Bud Light resulted in one of the biggest boycotts in American history, tanking sales. I think they're still trying to recover. Who would have thought that LGBT activists don't resonate much with American beer drinkers? Australia is following suit, with this year's Sydney's Local Woman of the Year award going to Brianna Skinner. Brianna's own experience of transitioning from male to female highlighted to her the discrimination and bureaucratic discrepancies that outdated New South Wales laws. So apparently, in 2025 Australia, biology and genetics has no bearing on Women of the Year awards. Based on recent headlines, one would think Australia is one of the worst places in the world for women. At the end of last year, amid all the crisis talks and prevention efforts, 2024 has been a horror year for violence against women. Australian women are doing 50% more housework than men. It's creating volcanic levels of resentment. This isn't specific to Australia, but interesting nonetheless. Wikipedia has a huge gender equality problem. Apparently only 10 to 15% of its editors are female. Who would have thought that mostly men are interested in editing encyclopedias? I suppose while ladies are doing extra housework, men are updating Wikipedia. A national shame, the data behind the killing of women in Australia. Australian women earn nearly $30,000 less than men a year. Oh yes, it's so hard being a woman in Australia. Even male comedians are attacking women. Dave Hughes erupts on stage, boots 3 women. Apparently 3 women were in the second row having their own conversation, constantly interrupting his set. They were given several warnings before being escorted out by security. See how bad Australia has become for women? They're not even free to interrupt people's performances. What are women in Afghanistan complaining about? Come spend a week in the patriarchy that is Australia and see how you like it. But International Women's Day is starting to face a bit of a backlash, not from men, but rather from non-white women. Al Jazeera published this article, International Women's Day is for the few, not the many, where they reported, today there will be an attempt to erase Palestinian women because it is politically inconvenient for Western feminism. International Women's Day, once a radical call for equality, has become a hollow spectacle, one where feminist organisations and politicians pick and choose which women deserve justice and which women can be sacrificed at the altar of Western interests. This same narrative of the helpless brown woman in need of white saviours has been used to justify even more recent Western military interventions, from Afghanistan to Iraq. SBS in Australia published a piece questioning whether International Women's Day is even valid anymore. Progress or corporate feminism? Is International Women's Day still relevant? In the article, under Corporate Feminism and Pink Cupcakes, they state, some critics have expressed frustration with this evolution, saying it promotes a superficial corporate feminism and trivialises the real inequalities faced by many women, particularly those who are less privileged. They also talk about intersectionality and Indigenous exclusion. Research shows women from marginalised backgrounds experience disproportionate rates of violence and discrimination and face additional or intersecting barriers to achieving gender equality. These include access to education, voting rights, reproductive rights and care, working rights, and the ability to make their own choices about relationships and marriage. Obviously, Australian women don't face problems anywhere near as severe as the problems faced by some women overseas. To say that they do is disingenuous. SBS interviewed a lady by the name of Ashley Donoghue, who is CEO of the Aboriginal women's organisation Mudgee Gal, where she says, "For me, it is very hard to even think that International Women's Day is inclusive of every other nationality that isn't white. Because in this country, I know for certain that Aboriginal women certainly aren't equal to white women in this country, let alone white men. So therefore, it misses the mark." She says that she used to love International Women's Day, but she now believes it is primarily focused on white women and does not adequately include Indigenous women or women from other minorities. So yes, International Women's Day is under attack, not by men, but rather by other women who feel less well-to-do than their white female counterparts. Yes, Australian women complain about the so-called gender pay gap. So I'd just like to finish with a quote from this article from The Australian, published on International Women's Day. "Why I'm celebrating the gender pay gap. This obsession among elite women misses the point. Many women don't want to work like men do." In the article, they write, "If the gender pay gap disappears, that would be a sign of one of two things. Either women have freely decided or been pressured by gender activists to believe that they want to be in the same jobs for the same hours, working at the same intensity as men, or it will signal that women are being paid the same as men to do less work. Either outcome is rotten for at least one sex or the other, and probably both." Anyway, thanks for watching.